them. You come a bit further forward, separate yourself from the audience.
Yeah.
So we have two young men here from our graduating class, Bryson and Alex, and they have expressed a strong desire to help with the program. And so I think one of them's going on each one.
Yes.
Is that right? So one of them's going on each program, so they've come to hear about it too. Why don't you sit down? It's relatively standing all the time. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, and forgive me because I have to go to the airport to pick up some students from Spain who are arriving tonight. So I can stay for about 30 minutes and then I'll have to go. But I'm sure you will find the meeting productive, and I hope you find the concept and the way it's going to be carried out very acceptable to you. So, Monica, over to you.
All right, thank you again for coming this evening. We have a few images as well as a few things to chat about with Project Discover. I'm just going to turn the lights up so it's a little easy to view. Okay. So, the changes that we've made have been made for a reason, and there are a host of educational benefits for the changes we've made to the program, which includes that we have a greater control over who is teaching our students. When our students had previously gone to, let's say, a camp, like a Camp Summit is an example of they're a very good camp, and we'll still work with them occasionally. But we don't know who Camp Summit have employed to take our students kayaking, or to take our students on a educational hike, or we don't know always what we do. We don't know what their credentials are. We don't know their experience. We don't know who they are. So now we have the opportunity to know that we have trained teachers and certified teachers in charge of the students, and we can also get to know who will be running our programs all the time. We have a greater control over what is taught. Just once again, when the students will go on camp, the camp was in charge of the program, and now we are completely in control. We can now introduce educational outcomes in relevant contexts, and one of the great examples we have is our grade 9 students. Astronomy is a part of their science curriculum, but we are going to be taking telescopes with us, and we will have a few people from the Whistler Astronomy Club come down to work with us, and they can really show the students what astronomy is about. We'll set up the telescopes in the evenings, they'll have a presentation, and they'll be able to have a look at what's in the sky, and they can learn from people who astronomy is a real passion for them. As we mentioned, your words that you used earlier was discomfort without danger.
Yes.
It's a very good way of explaining how challenges like that prepare people for life. It might be a challenge of, I now have to cook my own dinner on a camp stove, which I've never had to do before, but that's a transferable skill into the real world. That's something that when students find themselves at university and they're living on their own for the first time, they've done it before, and their camp in grade 9 has already started to prepare them for the rest of their lives. What we can also do by running the programs ourselves is it does significantly reduce the cost. And for those who have read the package, you'll see that we do have 2 activities each year. One at the beginning of the year and one at the end of the year. We have 3 main goals. There's personal growth and development through challenging situations. We have hands-on experience for educational objectives and a greater understanding for the natural environment. That's why our activities often take place in the natural environment. Other benefits do include that we can introduce alternate recreation activities such as kayaking, such as day hiking, overnight hiking, cycling, and there's a whole host of initiative challenges as well that can link themselves onto other activities. And I can't say too much about our initiative challenges because the key with an initiative challenge, as you'll find we have a lot of them in our program, so there's something that the students need to figure out. It might be that they have to figure out how to cross the river using only 3 hoops, which are stepping stones, and there are rules that go along with it. So yeah, there's quite a few games that I'm sure you'll hear a lot about when the students come back. Practicing intelligent decision making is a really important one, and like the cooking analogy I used before, an intelligent decision begins with something like, I have a cooking pot with food, and right now it would be smart of me to take it off the heat so that the food doesn't burn and cause a problem later. They're really small things that, like I said before, are transferable into the real world, and there'll be lots of opportunities for intelligent decisions like that. The independent living skills, cooking, cleaning and personal hygiene is just part and parcel of being on camp. And as mentioned before, reconnecting with the natural world. The First Nations aspect is included. It is a part of the ministry guidelines, like as an educational objective, but I also feel it's really important for students to understand who has occupied the land for eons of time before us, and just to know a little bit more about history. And so we're hoping to get some First Nations guest speakers to come and to talk to the students about what it was like when students their age in their culture will then be able to sit around a campfire like what we'll be doing and learn the history of their own history. And that's where a lot of learning took place as well. So to be able to understand what the First Nations perspective is on all of our activities. The Grade 8 program, as we mentioned, had 2 weeks in the year. In September, it's an introduction to camping and overnight hiking, and that's where we really focused on step-by-step teaching the students how tents are used, how stoves are used, how better to get along with the people around them when you're camping and you're living with someone for 4 days straight. It's very different to coming into school and being able to go home in the afternoon. At the end of the year, they'll be able to use some of the skills that they learned at the beginning with environmental stewardship activities. So the aim is to be going to Stanley Park. We'll be helping them. There are lots of projects going on at Stanley Park at the moment, so we might be counting different weed species or animal species. We might be helping with removing of weeds. Lots of different things. That will change actually from year to year, so I don't have a concrete plan for that one. Just depends on what might be necessary at the time. The competitive orienteering will involve some of the mapping and orienteering skills that they learn in, I mentioned September. It's October for Grade 8 and September for Grade 9, the introduction at the beginning of the year. Competitive orienteering, you'll probably hear me use the word Rogaine, and that's a particular type of activity where students or even adults, if they participate, are given a map, they're given lost the word for a moment, the coordinates for stamps that are going to be maybe hidden, maybe in the open. It's something that you could run at school, or something that you can run outdoors. And then their aim is, in a set period of time, maybe it's half an hour, maybe it's 2 hours, to get to as many of those stamps as possible. And then they have to get back to the finishing line. So that's how competitive orienteering works. And after their orienteering activity, they'll have a one-night camp out, just to be able to have a bit more time on the canvas with their friends, and once again, use some of the skills that they learned at the beginning of the year. The Grade 9 program is similar. They'll also have an introduction to camping and overnight hiking at the beginning of the year. When this year's Grade 8 is in Grade 9, we'll alter the program slightly. Instead of being at Alice Lake, we'll go to Coltis Lake, and then we'll have it'll be not so much of an introduction, but more like progression through camping skills and hiking skills. But again, we recognise that we might have new students at the school, so that program will be tailored to suit all our students. At the end of Grade 9, there will be a 4-day expedition. This expedition is going to be designed in conjunction with the students. They'll have quite a few choices as to what activity they want to do, whether they wanted to choose a hiking expedition, that could be a strenuous hike, it could be an easy hike depending on their comfort levels and their skill levels, it could be a cycling trip. We will be discussing with the Grade 9 students throughout the year what their choices are and how to go about creating that expedition. So they'll have a lot of control and a lot of ownership over what that activity is.